Good evening and welcome to the second night of the Detroit Pistons Pride Week presented by Delta Dental. This week serves as a celebration to impact, inspire, and support the LGBTQ plus community and spread a continual message of inclusion for all. I am joined this evening by Kevin Hurd, the founder of the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce, and Sara Cunningham, author, activist, and founder of the nonprofit Free Mom Hugs. Also with us is Sara's son, Parker, who inspired Sara's journey from the church to the Pride Parade. Before we get started today, please note that you can ask questions to Sara and Parker in the Q&A feature on your screen, and we will address some of those issues at the end of the conversation. We are so excited to have Kevin, Sara, and Parker joining us this evening, so please give a warm welcome as I pass over the conversation to Kevin Hurd.
Thank you for that introduction, Jonathan. And I would like to start this evening's conversation by having Sara and Parker tell us a little bit more about their journey and their stories about being activists within the LGBT community. So my first question is, let's start from the very beginning. Parker, could you tell us your coming out story and how did you gain the courage to come out to your mother?
Yeah, my coming out story, where all of ours are so different, but we kind of have a lot of common threads. And mine was in the thread of having to do it over and over and over and over. I came out, so many times. Half the time it was on accident. Sometimes it was very much on purpose. But we grew up in a very conservative evangelical community, and that made things really hard, not only for our family, but just, for myself. And just perseverance. I think that was kind of the courage. It's just, I had to do it over and over and over again. So it's something it wasn't a rehearsal. It was a live act every single time, and, eventually we figured out how to say it the right way,
Yeah. How did you originally take it, Sara?
Well, not very well. You can see I'm still quite emotional about it because I think about an entire adolescence of Parker's life that I missed because I thought it was a phase, or I tried to manipulate the conversation. I just didn't allow him to have those conversations at the kitchen sink or, when we were in the car together. And he tried over and over and over again. And I regret my reactions at every turn. I have a lot of regrets, but thankfully we do have a wonderful relationship now. We worked through those things. And I'm thankful that I have him, and we have an authentic relationship, and we celebrate what he brings to our family, what the dynamic that Parker brings to our family. And so I'm thankful for that, but there are some regrets for sure.
We all deal with regrets when it comes to sexuality and not understanding where we're coming from when it comes to that conversation, seeing that issue from a different person's perspective. Mm-hmm. So what made that click for you? What made this something that you did not necessarily agree with or understand? What made it click for you?
I think just Parker being true to himself all through. When I can look back and think about when he was trying to have those conversations, he always stayed true to who he is. But his concern was how the outside, his family, his peers, society, God would accept him or reject him. And those were the fears and anxiety that he had. So I don't think the doubt was ever in himself, because he searched. I don't want to speak for him, but I believe, knowing that my son searched himself, and he searched the scriptures that we raised him in, and the faith that we raised him in, and the God that we acknowledge, that he searched all of those things. And that if he was confident in who he is in God, then I had to look at that too. And it was a journey. It didn't happen overnight, but, and then getting educated, like on things like history of human sexuality, on science, and what scripture really says about it, which is not much at all. And so getting educated on what it means to be gay, all of those things took us on the journey where I no longer, I don't believe that homosexuality is wrong. I believe it's a beautiful gift from God, one that should be celebrated as a human identity, a dynamic to human sexuality that's important to our history and our future.
Yeah. It was really interesting seeing the past week, this weekend, I think it was in Brooklyn, where they had the Black Trans Lives Matter movement protest happening, and seeing over 15,000 people come out and support that. Talking about the equity work when it comes to the LGBT community, you said that you had to come out several times, right? And so if you had that layer of trans as part of your identity as well, like, just think about that dynamic. So at what age did you know that you were a member of our community?
Well, I always kind of make the joke that I've always spoken this way. I always wanted to be, witch for Halloween. There was never a time where I didn't know to some degree. But again, kind of through our evangelical scope, it was very apparent to me early on that the world at large would not accept me, much less my own church family, and she talks about her guilt a lot. And honestly, I say all the time, we both thought we were going to be struck down by lightning. It wasn't just that she thought, it was me, or I thought it was her. We both believed it, and that's what we were taught. And but it's kind of the more I had to examine that within myself and ask myself that, and straight up have conversations with God, it's like, there was no question about it. It was that, this is who I am. There's nothing that God did or I did, or, and if it took the rest of my life to convince the rest of the world of that, then that's what I was going to do.
Well, when it comes to the recent decision of the Supreme Court this week, basically providing protections for LGBT folks across this nation, adding it to the Civil Rights Bill of 1964, that LGBT people it is illegal now to discriminate against people in the workplace, LGBT folks in the workplace. How did that decision this week make you feel?
Well, for me, I was instantly kind of shot back to the marriage equality the day that happened. And I was on a work trip, and I came downstairs, and everyone I knew who was not LGBT was, congratulations, and we're so happy for you. And I had no idea what had happened, at that time. And it was kind of that same way now, where I just woke up and it had happened. I wake up a little later than most people, but it was a beautiful moment, and it was just instantaneous. And people were not just telling their stories of trauma and hurt, but their stories of success and hope and victory, which was really exciting too. But as someone in the community, I also, of course, had a moment of skepticism, and just, okay, well, what? And that's just the truest testament is, this will affect housing and healthcare and everything. It's going to affect every single aspect of life now in that equity, and so we really will see from here on out, what that will look like. And
how about you?
It's just a good time to see people ready to speak on that behalf.
Yeah. How about you, Sarah?
For me, there were a couple of things. First of all, you need to know that I'm the least politically minded person you'll ever meet. It wasn't until 2014 that I realized my straight son has more rights than my gay son. So I had to get educated on that avenue, on that vein. And when the Marriage Equality Act passed 5 years ago, I remember some of my more conservative friends saying, well, now we have marriage equality. What more do you want? And it's like, they had no idea that there's discrimination in your workplace, in housing, and adoption, in our education, and in our healthcare. So that was then. And then now you have a very conservative Supreme Court telling the world that discrimination is wrong. And that's my most hopeful takeaway from all of this. But it also, there's so much work to be done. And last thing is that the ripple effect of this will be good in all of the other areas that it will affect, and that's good, and it should. And it can't happen soon enough. But ultimately, the Religious Freedom Act, I would like to see it really affect that that organization as well. And I'm afraid that that's the organization that needs it the most. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that I wish I wish it would apply to the employees who are employed by the religious freedom organizations or the religious organizations, because you have more discrimination there. And until we get a different message from the pulpit and the current administration, we're not going to see a big change in the world. But it's happening from the Supreme Court. So I'm very, very happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was
celebrated last night with friends practicing social distance, but we went down to our gay district, and you know what we did? We celebrated. This is good news that we all need it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I was shocked and surprised at who actually was affirming of this decision as well.
Yeah, you know what a difference a day can make.
Mm-hmm.
What a difference a day can make.
Definitely. Well, I want to take this conversation to a point where you guys are celebrating. And when and where did you guys celebrate your first Pride? We all know that Pride originated out of a protest, and I think it will do the current movement that's currently happening a disservice if we did not acknowledge all the protests that are happening across this country and globally.
Mm-hmm.
And that the fight and that racism is wrong on all fronts. And so knowing that Pride was a protest and knowing that we are in COVID-19 and there's no Pride to go to, walk us through your first Pride experience as a young man, and then also together, and give our listeners and our viewers a little bit of hope before the future as well.
Yeah, my first Pride, and I hope it is for a lot of people, but was just a magical experience. I always kind of equate it to, just like I was seeing myself within 1,000 other faces, and that was the first time that had ever happened. And, I spent so long in my life feeling like I was the only person that was going through what I was going through, the only person in my church or my community, my school. So, I mean, it just gave me instantaneous hope to see them and see how many of them were there were people I knew, people I didn't know. But it was also a time when I knew that she still couldn't come. My first Pride was the year before hers. And I knew at that point, what a difference a year can make. To go to one knowing that there's no way my mom would ever come to one, to her coming and standing, with me and my community. And, so I kind of got to have two Prides. The first one was for me and the second one was for my family. And it's just been an incredible journey forward every day since.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Our first Pride as a family, my husband and I stood with Parker at the 2014 Oklahoma City Pride Festival. And I remember exactly where we were standing. We spent the day, meeting Parker's friends in a beautiful community not far from where we live, one that I had just been alienated from, either by my own fear and ignorance, quite frankly. And I remember where we stood, and across the street was a Goodwill. And I remember looking for just confirmation that it was okay to be there. Because remember, I'm a woman of deep faith, feeling like we just absorb this idea that we're going to get struck by lightning, right? So I'm standing there, and we have the Goodwill store across the street, and these beautiful, beautiful people all around, and they're gathered around. Pride flags are waving, and I'm looking for a picture or an illustration or some sort of validation that we're there. And right in front of me is a beautiful African-American woman, young girl, with a shirt on that says, "You can sit by me." And that's when I knew that I was in the right place, that this is where we belong, all of us together. And that was a pivotal moment in our lives.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful how those signs just pop up out of nowhere, right? You ask for a sign and they are there. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. So I want to talk about what did the concept of free mom hugs come from?
Well, I usually she starts this just because, it's how she got into how she started doing it. But just recently I've been kind of reminded of that next year. So it was my third Pride. And she'd asked me maybe a week before, like, hey, crazy idea. I'm thinking about just showing up at Pride and giving hugs and free hugs and yada, yada. And it was like, okay, Mom, like, make sure you wear sunscreen. Like, we'll see. Just thinking it was kind of a whim thing. Like, I don't know. But I got there and we'd come separately. And I started hearing other people walk around and say, like, did you see that hug lady? Did you see that hug lady? And, 45, 50 people later, and I'd have a couple friends come up and do like, have you seen your mom? And I found her and she was just covered in glitter from head to toe, but this is her version, but.
Yeah. Well, I did, after getting involved with the community and spending a year hearing stories of great alienation from their families, from their church homes, and from many parts of society, I made a homemade button and I pinned it to my sundress. And with anyone who made eye contact with me, I would say, could I offer you a free mom hug or a high five? And from that experience, I started the nonprofit Free Mom Hugs. And now we have chapters in every state. We have a logo that's recognized worldwide as just unconditional love. And it's been wonderful because here's why I think we've been so, the response has been so good and profound with this movement, is that people want to do something. And you need to know, I'm not the first mom to offer free mom hugs or high fives at a Pride festival. I'm just the first one to start a nonprofit from it because I saw a need. And I'm just doing things that I wish someone would have done when we were trying to figure this out. To see a mom at a Pride festival send a message to the community that we love you, we're celebrating you, and to moms like me that it's all right to accept your child and search this matter out and have an authentic relationship. And that's the wellspring of the movement. And we have moms all over the world, moms, dads, friends, and allies everywhere, just using the platform to show up and pour out into this beautiful community that is so important to our history and our future.
That's awesome. Talk to us about the importance of educating yourself on all these issues. We every year we seem as though that there's a different growth and different explanation for the LGBTQIA plus. And, to some people, they say, why is there more letters being added every single year? That's because humans' identity changes every single year. Sexuality is fluid. Our gender identity is fluctuates. But I want to know what resources did you seek out to understand the LGBT community, and beyond the mom hugs, what do you guys do inside of the community?
Okay. Well, first of all, what I found was very little at the beginning of my journey because I didn't know where to look for resources. I thought I was the only mom with a gay kid in Oklahoma. I really did. And then, so I wrote the book, How We Sleep at Night, A Mother's Memoir. It was just our journey of how we got through it. And then I found a private online Facebook group with moms with gay children. And it's there where I found resources on history, science, evidence, testimonies that helped me have a better understanding. Otherwise, I like to explain it this way. I know the power of fear and ignorance because I lived there. I put my family through it. I was frozen in it, but I know the power of love and education, and there is freedom there. There is peace there. There's understanding, and it equips us to make the world safer for everyone. The second thing is what we do is we have a term that we use about going beyond the hug, and we speak at not just me, but we have moms and dads and allies all over the world speaking at the water coolers, at their places of worship, at where they work, in their homes, just making their homes a safe place, whether it's wearing a button on their bag at the grocery store or leaving a pamphlet of resources at the endocrinologist who knows how to treat the transgender patient but have no clue what to do with their conservative parents. Do you see the ripple effect of this? So we do go beyond the hug in any way possible, but it's about being visible It's about sharing education, and it's about having conversations. Stories matter. And is there anything you want to add to that?
No, it's been incredible to see, as we have gone national, to see how these moms, dads, and allies in different states are adapting to the needs of their communities. You know, there are so many things that we do, and the hug is of course the base, but especially with COVID and virtual prides and all of the stuff, we have had to literally define what going beyond the hug meant. What does it mean when we can't? And it's just been incredible. I mean, the one thing that, just because it sounds so simple, but we have some moms that are making beans for their drag queen friends in their community. And, you know, I always call it beans for queens, but it just is so simple. As simple as a hug, as simple as this. And like she was saying, that gives them the platform and ability and the space to feel like they can do something. And it's hard for allies, especially parents, to know what to do. You know, when a kid comes out, it's like, oh, I officially know this about myself. It's like, no, we're just starting our lives, you know? So when that means a parent also has to, you know, figure out those alternate things. What do I have to do now? What are the needs of my new ecosystem, you know? And a lot of that is what is going beyond the hug. You know, how do I adapt?
Yeah. Kevin, can I add just two more things to that? Just really quickly, because I remembered something you said about the acronym. It's a mouthful, it's a lot, and it's ever changing. And I love that, because here's why. Because I didn't always understand it. And I thought sometimes I just use the word gay, you know, depending on what group I'm speaking with, just for the terminology's sake. But what changed my mind about it, and to appreciate it more, is that I was hearing from the young people saying, it just helped me identify who I am, because they saw themselves as that acronym is identified, and it equips them with the language to be able to talk about it, verbalize it. Does that make sense? So I appreciate it even more. I pray one day that we're just celebrating everyone and not needing a label per se, but right now I'm very grateful that we have that tool. And the second thing is that we have been hearing, as a nonprofit organization, from major companies all over the world who are wanting to use Free Mom Hugs to make their workplace inclusive, to be vocal and visible about making their workplaces safe. So even though we're in the middle of a pandemic, we at Free Mom Hugs have been very busy in that arena. And it makes me so happy, because I know that the world's just getting better. If everything that's so heavy going on right now, something really good has got to come from this. And I believe that it will. I believe that it will.
Yeah, and there's nothing better than a hug from your mom or a mom. I don't think there's anything better.
People need their mom.
Yeah. I remember my coming out story, which was really interesting. I was leaving the barber shop, and I was wanting to go to a gay club with my friend, and my mom was allowing me to have the car. But I was like, well, she's going to ask where I'm going, and I don't lie to my mom. So I'm going to have to tell her the truth. And I told her the truth, and she said, oh, what kind of club is that? You know? And I said, gay club, while I was looking in the refrigerator. I was not looking at her at all. And she says, oh, why would you want to go there? And I said, because I'm gay. And she got quiet. She finished making her plate. She sat in the den. She answered the next 3 questions on Jeopardy with no problem. You know, I think the answers were Aristotle and something else. And I said, are you going to say anything? She says, have fun, be safe, don't drink and drive. And she says, but she did say, don't tell your father right now.
Oh,
yeah.
That was the one thing. It was a little harder for my father to figure out versus my mom. I think my mom always kind of knew. I think parents kind of always know in one instance or another. My father grew to love what I do and love who I am. And so, I mean, our relationship is strong, and I can see that you guys' relationship is strong. How has that changed before and after for you guys, for you all? Your relationship?
There's for sure been a lot of reconciliation. I mean, like she was saying, I mean, a lot of parents who struggle with essentially their children's childhood, if that makes any sense. It's like, you know, you do miss on that, but we really have, in some ways been forced to work through a lot, but in some ways we're given the opportunity to work through a lot. And a lot of people don't get that, you know? So, but I mean, of course, whenever we are speaking to the community and speaking to the parents and, you know, the young people in the community, both, it's like we hear so much of ourselves and we're hearing people, you know, tell our story, but 10 years later. And, you know, it's just, this is why we do what we do. I mean, it's kind of like even our struggles, even the things that we still, you know, are working through, we're all constantly working through it. And if we're not having those conversations and not, you know, being authentic with each other and allowing each other to be authentic, you know, with the world, you know.
Yeah, there were several, I mean, obviously you have pivotal moments in your relationships, but one of the first things that Parker, or the turning points for me, is when he came out of his closet, I went into mine, see? And at one point he said, "Mom, I've been your son for 21 years. I need you to be my mom now." And that was like a aha moment for me. And then at another time he said, "I want you in every part of my life, but it's up to you how much of that you're going to allow yourself to be in." Because I didn't know how to walk that out. And when I saw other people celebrating him, when I didn't know how to, or if I wanted to, because I was just stuck in this fear and unknowing. And that was a huge eye opener to me. And I tell parents all the time, you either will celebrate your children or you're going to suffer with them through self-harm or at-risk behavior or worse. And so it's not enough to affirm your children, but we need to celebrate all of our children. And it just makes this world safer for everyone.
And for people who are either in the beginning of this journey with their children, what are some ideas or tips on how to be an ally and how to have those hard conversations?
Well, why don't you answer that from a child's perspective?
Well, you know, kind of like I said earlier, whenever your kid comes out, it seems like they're telling you this thing that they're very assured of, and it's really more of an admission first, and they're figuring out who they are. So, I mean, your child cannot educate you on who they are. I mean, you will have to take a parent will have to take some responsibility, and Google has come a long way in the last 10 years. There are so many more resources out there. But, you know, for a parent, it would just be, you know, ask your kid questions, but they are not accountable for like educating you on their history that they're just now coming into, you know, they're just help them with that. But as far as the person, I mean, I can only speak from my own experience and just say, persevere. I mean, keep telling your story. Your stories are important. And that's all we can do. I mean, we all know about chosen family, and you will find one if your own family isn't able to come around, but just keep persevering and keep telling your story, and the right people will come, and hopefully it's your own family, but
Yeah, I would only add to that, if you, what I'm so thankful that Parker had when he had to check himself at the door coming in his own home, that he had safe people at his school, whether it's a teacher or a classmate. There are probably some people even in our place of worship that he felt safe with. And I'm so thankful that he had those people, because I was not at that time a very safe person with his emotions, with his feelings, with his walk. And the second thing, as a parent, that there's so much information out there now to not have a better understanding. And we should never guilt our children or shame them in this area, because that does detrimental harm, and it divides family, it destroys our children, it grieves their spirit. So help them along. There's so much wonderful information out there now, and there's support groups out there, so parents can just kind of go on this journey too. Your child has already searched themselves, and they need a safe place, and they need their mother, they need their parents to love them and support them.
Thank you for that as well. So outside of work, I teach a allyship training, and it's really important for us to, for one, understand when someone is coming to you and revealing their sexual orientation or their gender identity, they're at one of their most vulnerable spots, but it's out of confidence, it's out of love. They feel safe with you. And sometimes, and depending on where it is, it's out of obligation. They have to say these things and reveal themselves to you, and hopefully it will be receptive. So what I always teach people is that you have to be an active listener. Listen to what they're saying, how they're saying it, and understand that your words matter in response to what they're saying. And then after their response, after your response, but during your response, making sure that you are using the right kind of term, knowing that you're not going to be the best person and fully educated about this organization or this community, but understanding that this will take you time to understand that you're interested in learning more, that you are here to support, and not take any venting that the person that's coming to you as a personal attack. Take it as a teachable moment. These moments are important. And this goes for everyone. And the importance of allyship is that you can be an ally to anyone and everyone. Every minority and marginalized community needs ally, from women to African Americans to LGBT to Muslim Americans to Asian Americans to indigenous folks, two-spirited folks. Like this allyship has to go just beyond the LGBT community, but to all of the intersectional identities that we have. And so I want, for one, to commend you for what you've created, Free Mom Hugs. It's an amazing organization. And I also want to commend you for just having the confidence to go and tell your mom who you are and reveal that to her, and come out constantly. We are always ever evolving. And so I want to commend you both for sharing your story today. I am going to pivot to some questions. I know we're starting Q&A a little early today, but again, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A box at the bottom. Okay. And so one of the questions is to Parker. What are you most proud of your mom, for your mom for?
Oh. Well, I mean, it's really just her ability to see what it is that my community has needed. And I think that's taken so much responsibility,
Way to go, Kevin.
No, but just for a parent to say, or for any person to say, this is something me or my community has done, and or to recognize that, and not just me, but now everybody else, Thank
you.
Just that she can see me and everybody, and that means a lot.
Once you're made aware of something, you're accountable. I'm accountable to what I know. And those stories at that first Pride Festival changed me. And they are at the forefront of my mind with everything that we do, everything. And so thank you for that, Parker.
So now I have to make Parker cry. What are you most proud of about your son?
I'm just proud that he's here. And he's a proud gay man. And he lives authentically, and he is a good son. He's a good friend, and he's smart, he's kind, and he brings a perspective and a dynamic to our family that has just really been wonderful. And I want to celebrate it every day.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So what is your favorite part about Free Mom Hugs, Sara?
My favorite part is seeing the transformation, seeing and hearing from people all over the world who say, I got my first hug, from the huggers to the hugger, from both participants, because that is such a profound moment. It's such a practical, simple thing. And I look forward to the day that we can hug again. But now it's like when they see a button on a bag or a bumper sticker, it just, I hear stories all day, every day, and most of them are very good, and most of them are transformative. They've gone from one place to another, and they're thriving and vibrant and living authentically, and that brings me great joy.
That's awesome. What about you, Parker? What's your favorite part? I know that you are an advocate for the organization, right?
Yeah.
Tell us about your role a little bit more, what you do.
Well, I think it's been quite the experience, but also an exercise with us telling our stories over and over. And not to plug it, but this is my mom's book, and I always show it to people because it's not a novel. It's not this giant, laborious, coffee table book. It's just having that conversation and telling our stories. So that is really what we do most of the time, is just kind of telling our experiences and kind of inviting other people to do that themselves. And it's a simple gesture, but it really does so much. And the other side too is kind of trying to stay available for because we do have, allies, and we do have people in the community on our board and in the organization, and they do so many different things and have so many perspectives. So it is nice to kind of just have people, who have questions to ask and need an LGBT person to ask it to. We all need some of those. Everybody needs one,
Yeah.
There's a phrase we learned. Was it from GLAAD? And they said, "Not about us, without us."
Yeah, not about us, without us. So it just kind of is a great reminder. I don't speak for everyone. I don't speak for everyone in the community. I don't have the experiences of every single different kind of person in our community. But it is it is a huge responsibility to be able to provide that for what we do.
Yep.
That's awesome. So I hear a question. I see a question here, and I'm like, Sara, how many weddings have you been in as a stand-in mom? That has happened to you before?
Yes, I've carried the title as an accidental activist, stand-in mom, the hug lady, hair on fire. I carry many titles, which I gladly carry. But as I got involved with the community, I started meeting beautiful couples, and they would ask if I would officiate their weddings, Kevin. And in doing so, they would share with me how their parents are not acknowledging their relationship and refusing to come to their weddings. So out of frustration, I made a social media post, said, if your biological mom won't come to your same-sex wedding, then you call me, I'll be there. I'll even bring the bubbles. And that deemed me the stand-in mom. Yeah. And I'm happy to do so. I hope the parents will come around, but I will stand in. So I have stood in, and I also officiate weddings, and there's too many to count, quite frankly. I don't know how many, but I'm glad to do. It's probably under 50 by now, but.
But I mean, it has the post that kind of went viral. I mean, we as an organization giving hugs, showing up at Pride, that was one thing. And a lot of people wanted to do that. But I do remember when that really was a wildfire, the post about standing in, it's like people, especially that were either in the faith community or formerly from the faith community, or a lot of people who had maybe purposely not gone to a gay wedding or performed a gay wedding before, were like, okay, this is my obligation, or this is my place, or, I'm not a hugger, but I can stand in and be someone's cranky aunt at a wedding. You know what I mean? Like,
it was beautiful to see. We heard from people all over the world saying, I'll stand in too. I'll stand in too. And it was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
On just an estimate, how many hugs do you think you gave? Just a ballpark.
Thousands.
Kevin.
Thousands.
That's someone's question.
Count the stars in the heavens. I don't know.
Oh, that's amazing. That's beautiful.
Yeah, a lot. And I have lots more in store.
That's amazing.
I can't wait until we can hug again.
Yeah.
If I have to put on a damn dinosaur suit and go out hugging, I'm going to do it.
Ziploc suit.
Another attendee is asking, how do we, what advice do you give other moms who don't necessarily know where to start? What specific advice would you do?
I would tell mothers who don't know where to start, just start with the foundation and love your child. Of course, we all love our children and want what's best for them. But get educated. To get educated on this particular issue, if you have a gay child, is the best thing that you can do, because you can help your child navigate through that. and know that there's nothing wrong with your child. This is a beautiful, I believe it's a gift from God. And it's a dynamic that we don't fully understand, but we have so many resources out there now. And I can't say it enough, but we do. And to just build up your child, train up your child in the way that they are bent. That means whatever they are driven to, whatever their interests are, if it's music or sports or, whatever that is, when we can support our children in a healthy, functional, authentic way, then that allows them to gift the world with their spiritual gifts. And that's what serves the world. It's what we were created to do. So pour into your child, love your child, and just get educated is the best thing. And help your child get educated, because also get educated on it, and you surround yourself with people who will support and celebrate your child, who will support you as you affirm your child and celebrate your child. And if you don't have those people in your life, then you find them, because they're there. They're there.
Definitely. What advice would you give someone who wants to come out but knows that their family will not be accepting?
That's always a hard question, because you never want to tell someone to plan for the worst, but you could just as easily say sometimes that's not the worst. Depending on the dynamic, but just really it's the same. You find a support system. It's necessary. Whether it's online, there's tons of online groups now. A lot of people in the LGBT community were isolated before this pandemic, in many ways. And there are tons of support groups out there. And I almost hate that term, support groups, but that's literally what they are. Just groups of people coming together who are going through similar experiences. Same with the private moms group. There are groups out there where nothing you say is going to be stupid, nothing you say is going to be too emotional or not valid. But whether it's in person or online, just finding some sort of a support system. Even if it's a friend that you can just go say whatever you need to, but those safe places and those safe people are lifesavers. They've saved my life. And I'm just so thankful for them. But that's, and to educate themselves. I do think that is a good thing that I think we forget as a community, is learning our history, learning, things like that too. But that comes with educating yourself too,
That's awesome. Yeah, education is really, really important. Definitely. This is a question to you, Sara. Was it challenging standing up to your religious community, and how have they learned to accept you?
It was devastating. We were very active in our church. We served there for over 20 years. And as I began to have this conversation with my peers, and at the time it was devastating, but now looking back, I realized, Kevin, we didn't know how to minister to each other. We didn't have same-sex couples in our church. We didn't have same-sex weddings. We didn't really talk about it at all. And I didn't even have the vocabulary. It was like another language as I tried to talk about it. But it was difficult. It was the hardest thing that I've been through as a woman of faith. But now I understand it. They just didn't have the resources, or we didn't know how to minister to each other. And I hear from several members of the congregation now, as their family members come out, or as they learn that they have someone who's gay in their family, or someone they love has come out. But as a whole, the mainstream evangelical non-affirming church is still not coming to the table.
Have you had any non-affirming people in your past come back and tell you they changed their mind?
Oh, yes. As once, like, I thought I was okay with people being gay until it was our son, right? Well, the same is true for my I want to say colleagues, but from our former church, as their children grow up and come out, they go, "Hey, Sara, remember, Timmy? Well, we just had a conversation. What do I do?" And that's been wonderful. I like to, I'm still approachable, but until that happens, I can't get them to the table. And so it's unfortunate. So I used to try to bridge the gap, Kevin, between the church and the community, but I couldn't get the church to the table. See? So then I put my efforts on the community. And I found that it was much easier to lift up and encourage and support the community. And then those who are learning or on the fence or willing to have a conversation, then will come around. But I can't waste my time and my energy, because here's the deal. I'm not here for that. I'm not here for them. You know, I don't mean that as a disrespect, but I'm saving my pearls.
Awesome. So we want to learn a little bit more about your book, your memoir. That was basically your journey, right? Between
Yes.
Parker's coming out. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, again, I thought I was the only mother in Oklahoma with a gay kid. And it is a self-published book. I just wrote it for myself. And I don't know if you can see that, but it's titled How We Sleep at Night, A Mother's Memoir. And Parker designed the cover. It's beautiful. I love it. And it's just I'm not a scholar or a theologian. It's just how I got through it. And the interesting thing is that you may not know, but when the post went viral, when my hand up in the air being a stand-in mom, Kevin, that caught the attention of Jamie Lee Curtis. And she found out about the book, and she acquired the rights to the book. And now she's going to direct and play me in a film made for television, the Lifetime channel. And so she is making a movie about this book. And
that's amazing. Is that Mama's Bears documentary? Or?
No, there's two things. The book is with Jamie Lee Curtis, and then there's a documentary being made. It's a separate project by director Darisha Kai, and that is a documentary that she follows moms all over the world who are just doing what they can do to make their home safe and where they live a safe place for their families. And that's called the Mama Bear documentary. So we have two different projects that'll reach, I believe, different demographics. And I'm so excited about it because, hello, we're making a movie, but I know what I would have done to have seen this when we were going through this. So I'm really excited about that.
You left your mark, definitely. You're still leaving.
I hope so.
That's good. When are those events, those projects?
The movie with Jamie Lee Curtis. It'll probably be next year due to the pandemic. Everything was kind of pushed back, but it's still a work in progress. Probably come out next year. I can't guess when, but if I were to, I'd probably say around Mother's Day next year. Okay. But I'll keep you posted on that. And then the Mama Bear documentary, I believe all the filming's been done. It's just being edited as we speak, and that'll be more along the independent film circuit.
That's awesome. So hopefully submitting it to a few film festivals and things of that nature. We will, we will love it. One of the things, actually, I'm going to show everyone this Freak Film Festival. It's a documentary-only film festival from the Detroit Free Press. I'm the marketing director for it. So definitely send it over to me, and I'll have our artistic director look at it once it's completed.
Oh, I'd love that.
We would love to look for more diversity.
You will love the work. If you haven't seen it already, the work of Darisha Kai, director Darisha Kai. She did Shavella. She did Texas Strong, Kimberly Shapley's story out of Texas, transgender beautiful child. I mean, she just does amazing work. If you haven't heard of her yet, I'm sure you will, and you're going to love her.
Awesome. So tell us about how can we get in touch with you all? How can we find you on social media, and how can someone join you?
Well, I mean, we're Free Mom Hugs on, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, but we also, now that we're national, we have a website. It's freemomhugs.org, www.freemomhugs.org. And that's a place where other people can go and find chapters in their state. So they can get connected with, the group in their state, and they can find resources there. We have our merchandise on there as well. Some cities and groups have their own, little Instagrams and stuff, but you can always find the main chapters on our website.
Yeah. I also like to add on the website, you can also, you find Parker mentioned you can find your state chapter. And just because we're in the middle of a pandemic, it doesn't mean that you can't be plugged into your chapter. There's still a lot of things going on the social media platform that you can be a part of. And that's been wonderful to see. So get plugged into your local state chapter, and you can also become a reoccurring donor. We're a nonprofit organization. We depend on donors to go beyond the hug and to continue the work of Free Mom Hugs. and we're doing the thing, and we need help, and it's one where we're all better together.
That's awesome. Thank you guys again for letting us know how we can get in touch with you, sharing your story, being authentic with this conversation. I'm just going to end with one more last question. But before then, I'm going to actually read something that someone posted in the chat. They're an employee of the Pistons organization. They joined Free Mom Hugs in April of 2019, and they want to thank you for starting this conversation and sharing your story. You are helping so many people and changing the world to make it a better place. He said, my son wrote me the most beautiful letter after our first Pride together, and about how proud he was to have a mom that still makes me cry to this day. I have also taken in 2 kids who were kicked out of their home, and I am so proud to be a mom hugger. And it was we will spend the rest of our lives trying to keep the change in the world by kindness and love. And thank you very much. So that was an employee from the Detroit Pistons that shared that. And I'm so happy that you guys are affecting people, even in the city and state that I work in. So I want to say, what was the most impactful moment for you during this time? And where do you go from here?
During this time, like during the pandemic?
COVID-19, yeah.
Well, one of the most impactful things, we did have, we go on a tour every year, the Free Mom Hugs tour. And everything kind of started winding down and going into shelter in place. I mean, as we were kind of planning if we were going to go on the road and if we were going to do all this stuff. Long story short, we did pull it off, and it was a great success. But it just kind of showed us how limitless we are right now too. Like, yes, we can't go to our physical Pride on 39th Street and hug and set up a table and do all that stuff, but we can connect with people anywhere and everywhere, and we can connect to them. And, you know, where we might have gone on this tour, and we still will, you know, eventually go back to the physical tour, but just seeing how connected we can really be, and just how limitless that is, it's not always easy to have the conversations, but the conversations can be done easily, more easy than we think or give ourselves credit for.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, awesome, guys. Well, I really appreciate everything. Thank you so much, Kevin, Sara, and Parker, for spending your evening with us. And to all who tuned in, I hope you guys found out some great information. Free Mom Hugs. It's so great. And this wraps up our session for Pistons Pride Week tonight. Joining us tomorrow night for a panel discussing inclusion in sports with Hudson Taylor from Athlete Ally and several influential athletes. So stay tuned for that and join us. And thank you again, guys. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.